Hey guys, my name's Katie. I'm sure you can see that on my Facebook. I just wanted to go ahead and say that anyway, in case for some reason you couldn't see that. I decided to go ahead and make this video because, as I'm sure you all know, Bernie Sanders dropped out of the presidential election race today, and that was a really depressing moment. It's not that I didn't expect it, but it was still just sad to see that our country isn't ready for the kinds of things he's been talking about. In 2020, mind you. I would have expected that more so maybe 20 years ago, but not now. We're a fifth of the way into the 21st century, and we can't even say that healthcare is a right, like that people deserve to be cared for without worrying about what it's going to cost them if they're sick or if they are dying. Just seems like common sense to me, but apparently that's not the case for everybody. Anyway, that was a really depressing moment today, and doing videos is something that I've felt called to do for a while, and honestly I've just been resisting the crap out of it because I don't want to, and it terrifies me. And I'm sure if you've ever hung out around me in public, you know that I don't really talk much. So despite feeling like this is something I'm supposed to do, I've just been like, no, it's gotta be something else. It's gotta be something else. It's not something else, I don't think. So here I am. I feel like I need to kind of explain just a little bit of what the past year has been like for me before I get into the alternatives to the political process that I kind of want to talk about as far as advancing our country towards progressive ideas, healthcare as a right, education as a right through college, those sorts of things. But before that, a lot of you probably also know me as Trix. I got into DJing in 2016, and so it's actually about 4 years, almost exactly, because it was May 1st, 2016 that I bought my first controller. And it was really good for a while, probably about 3 years. I was doing the DJ thing. I started producing about 2 years ago, and I wouldn't say I experienced a ton of success or anything, but I had a good time. I played quite a few shows, and it seemed to be going really well for me. And then last year, at about this time actually, that motivation to do music, especially within the electronic music scene, just kind of poof. It just kind of disappeared, and I didn't really know why. I still kept trying to play shows even after that and trying to make music, but mostly just feeling like I was failing, and it wasn't the thing that I was supposed to do with my life. Not that I don't think you can't choose what you want to do with your life, but it just didn't feel completely right for me at the time. And over the course of the past year, I've been trying to get that fire back for producing music and DJing and whatnot, and it just hasn't come to me. So instead, I started pursuing knowledge of, I guess you could say, esoteric or just spiritual topics. The first thing that really caught my attention was astrology, and I dove deep into astrology. I would spend hours online researching different things and have a whole notebook full of notes on astrology just from like 2 months time or something. And then that passion kind of died out. I did study numerology a bit too after that. And then more recently, I somehow just stumbled across this video on YouTube on the channel Spirit Science, where they were talking about tarot and how you could pay to join this online mystery school, they were calling it. It's basically just a bunch of classes related to spiritual topics, and you could do a course on tarot through the mystery school and get your certification to do tarot readings. And I was like, this is it. This is the thing that I'm supposed to do. I'm gonna do tarot readings for people, and that's gonna be my career, and I'm gonna help people improve their lives spiritually and in other ways through tarot. And I got into it. I'm still like not completely convinced that that's not what I'm supposed to do. That may be part of what I'm supposed to do. But point being, I'm kind of rambling. The point being, I pursued all these different things over the course of the past year, just like trying to make them work and trying to figure out how to make a career out of them, and nothing just really stuck like in my heart, like feeling like, oh, this is it, like this is the thing for me. And in March, a month ago, this coronavirus thing started happening. I wasn't particularly pursuing anything, kind of just doing life, like the usual work, and kind of still doing music as a hobby and everything. And then this happened. And it's been a month now. And it's been a really emotional, crazy process. And honestly, to come back to Bernie Sanders and that whole thing, I thought that maybe this crisis would help people see more why Bernie's policies are so vitally necessary in our country. And it may have done that for some people, few people, I don't know, but not in the way that I hoped, and probably the way that many of you hoped. And today he dropped out, and that was really sad. But in my learning about tarot and learning how to do tarot card readings and whatnot, at one point I thought I was just going to do videos of tarot card readings for like the collective, and I actually did do one just on my phone one day, and it was how the question that I asked for the reading, was, what do we need to do to ensure that Bernie Sanders or somebody like him with similar ideals gets elected president in our country? And I shuffle the cards and draw the card, for the reading or whatever, and I don't have the card on me. But actually, I've got the book, so I'm just going to show you the picture of the card that came up when I did this reading. And this was probably, I want to say, in January. It was the 10 of Discs, for those of you who are familiar with tarot. And where is Discs? Bear with me, I've almost got it. It's 10 of Swords. And this book is huge, by the way. It's like a dang textbook. Okay, here it is. So this is the card that I drew when I asked the question, what can we do to ensure that Bernie Sanders or somebody like him gets elected president in our country. So 10 of discs, and the key word for this card is legacy. It's going to be backwards on here, but you can see the picture. And I do this reading, and the first thing that stood out to me was this guy here in the front, who I just felt kind of looked like, I mean, he's a grandfather figure, but just immediately reminded me of Bernie. And I thought that was so interesting and so cool. And so I'm looking at the card, analyzing it, trying to understand how this relates to our elections. And basically what came to me was that it's about community, and we can't rely on a single person or like a savior or a president to ensure that our country becomes the kind of country that we want to live in. We progressives, I should say, because not everybody wants to live in the same kind of country. But you can look at the picture, I'll show it one more time, on this card. And like, there's a couple over here that's like super happy. There's some people dancing in the background, and then there's just a few animals. Everybody looks really happy and like they're just living their best life, pretty much. And the whole thing that I got from this card was that if you want this kind of world, if you want to live your best life, it's not going to happen by electing somebody as president. You've got to create it yourself. And that made a lot of sense at the time, but I feel like it makes even more sense given the events of today. And this is kind of where the part comes in about me trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do with my life and what really hits home in my heart. I've been waiting for the thing that feels like the thing that I'm supposed to do. And I think that helping everybody, I mean, especially people here locally in Conway and Central Arkansas, to create the world that we want rather than wait on somebody else to create it for us, that's where my calling lies. And today really just put that in perspective for me. So I did one more tarot reading right before making this video just to ask, like, what do you want me to remember or focus on while I'm making this video today? What do I need to keep in mind? What does my focus need to be? And the card that I drew was the Three of Cups. No, it's backwards in the screen, but the key word is abundance. And it shows these three people kind of working together in harmony, I would say, and they're surrounded just by an abundance of food, and good looking food at that. And they look happy and at peace and content, and I feel like this was just like, okay, yeah, this is the video I need to make. So, given that that's all good and well, but like, what are we actually going to do? That's the big question, right? And so many people are talking about voting third party and writing in Bernie and not voting at all, and I understand. I even made a status to that effect at one point. I deleted it, but I was talking about how I wanted to vote for the Green Party. I don't think that's where our focus needs to be. I think that if anything, the 2016 election and then this current 2020 election have shown us the political system is not going to get us there. That's not what is going to create the world, or at least the country, that we want. We can't rely on that. And so, as I was saying, what are we going to do? It's not about who you're going to vote for or not vote for. I really don't think that really matters, honestly. Nothing is fundamentally going to change. There might be some exceptions to that. Trump continuing to be in office could change some things that might not be good for us. But we, just like the government's not going to save us, it also doesn't have to be what destroys us. Trump can do whatever the hell he wants up there in office if we have good community and local economies thriving, just like focusing on our local homes. Who cares what he does over in Washington? We are in charge of where we live. We decide what we want to happen here. And that's just what it comes down to. So, I'm sorry, I keep getting off track back to the question of what are we going to do. I'm going to grab my phone real quick because I've got a few notes on this particular question. And I think there's 1, 2, 3, I guess kind of 4 or 5 areas that we can focus on as a community that will be a lot more beneficial to us in the long run than just focusing on who gets elected where. I do think that's important to a certain extent, and I'm not going to say don't vote or whatever, just don't rely on that to be the thing that gets you what you want. So the areas I think that we as a community can focus on are food and having a way to ensure our survival if anything were to go down on a larger scale. If we have the food we need to feed ourselves in our local communities, it won't matter as much what happens on the outside because we know at the very least we can survive here. It's kind of like if you're in a relationship, you need to ensure that you can continue to thrive if that relationship were to end for some reason. Don't rely on that always continuing the way it is. Anyway, and I'm sorry for like the little gaps in my speech and stuff. I'm gonna get better. I'm doing my best. The second area that I think we need to focus on is Bernie Sanders' big thing, which is health and healthcare. And a big part of it, I think, is preventative healthcare. It is important to know how to treat people who are sick and people who are hurt, but another huge thing is making sure we don't get sick in the first place as much as possible. So maybe wellness centers where you go to have consultations about your health and what you can do to improve that outside of modern medicine. What kind of exercise routines you should have, what kind of diet you should have, that sort of thing. The third area is the economy, obviously. I think it's important to have, kind of in the same vein as the food thing, a local economy that's thriving and doesn't rely on outside forces or people in order to sustain itself. One thing that I've always thought was a really good idea, and I'd have to do more research on this, but it's alternative currencies. So coming up with a currency that is not the US dollar, it could be the Arkansas dollar or what have you, and implementing that so that if the larger economy crashes or the dollar gets super inflated or whatever, we still have a way to exchange goods and services here in our communities. And the last one, and this is a really big one, I think, and it's something that you're not going to hear talked about in politics unless people are talking about their personal religion, like Christianity, but it's spirituality. And I don't mean any particular religion or set of beliefs, at least not any super strict set of beliefs, just understanding the connectedness and oneness of humanity. For one, I think this coronavirus pandemic is demonstrating that if you're sick, it influences my ability to be healthy, and vice versa. So we are all connected. And then, of course, the environment and the earth we live on also being part of this oneness. And so when I say spirituality, I really just mean acknowledging that everything is connected, and only focusing on ourselves isn't going to be sustainable long term. So just to go back over those real quick: food, health or healthcare, the economy, and spirituality. I think those are the 4 things that we as a community locally, and if you're not here in Arkansas, in your community, can focus on building, I guess I would say, in your area. And ooh, there's a bee right there. Ooh, it's a bumblebee though. I don't think it'll sting me. Holy moly, you are huge. It heard me talking about the oneness of the earth, and it was like, oh yeah, I can get behind that. Anyway, so to wrap up, I hope this made any kind of sense, and I'm sorry if it didn't, but I think I said a few good things in there. Don't rely on a person or a savior to bring about the kind of world you want to see. We're going to have to do it ourselves, bottom line. And I want to be a part of making that happen here in Conway, Little Rock, Central Arkansas, and who knows, if this becomes some kind of thing that people want to do on a larger scale, maybe help with that as well. That's not my goal though. I just want to do something here and now that's productive and that will benefit our community long term. So, I love you guys, and to anybody who's watched this far, I really, really appreciate you. And I would love suggestions on, I think I'm going to start a Facebook group, most likely, but whatever ideas you have in regards to taking action here locally, I would love to hear and collaborate with you. So let me know what you think, and please don't get too sad or down about our political state, because ultimately it's up to us to create what we want to see. Y'all have a great day.